For my model, I have chosen to construct a ball and socket joint. This is aimed for students in Year 6 because it is not an exact replica of a ball and socket joint, but it will be effective in teaching them basic movements of shoulder and hips. I am attempting to demonstrate how bones and joints in a ball and socket joint work and how movement is made when we are running, bending, lifting an arm, etc. This model will show how an arm and leg are able to swing in various directions. The ball and socket joint is a type of synovial joint. This type of joint is found between bones that move against each other, just like in the knee or the hip. Synovial joints are enclosed in a capsule and covered with cartilage and a synovial membrane to allow free movement. This means that around the joint there are pouch-like things that hold fluid. This fluid is used to nourish and wet the joints so that it is able to move around freely without causing any pain. Synovial joints are totally movable to allow for movement in 1, 2, or 3 of the planes. There are 6 different types of synovial joints, but the ball and socket joint allow for the most movement. This is because they are able to flex, extend, abduct, adduct, and circumduct. Flexion is a movement that decreases the angle between the bones at a joint. For example, when your arm is being brought forward. Extension is a movement that increases the angle between the bones at the joint. For example, moving your arm backwards. Abduction is the movement of the body part away from the midline of the body. The midline is an imaginary line from the center of your body that divides your body into left and right. For example, when your arm moves from your side out into the air. Adduction is the movement of the body part towards the midline of the body. For example, your arm crosses your body. Circumduction is a circular movement of a body part, for example, doing a circle with your arm. I chose to use a chopstick because it has a pointy end that was able to pierce through the foam ball. I chose a foam ball so that I was able to attach the chopstick to it easily. I chose aluminium foil as it is flexible and I was able to shape it to the size and shape that I needed. Aluminium foil can also be recycled, as long as it doesn't have any food residue such as grease on it, as the grease can contaminate other items being recycled. This is why I chose to use aluminium foil, because it's recyclable. All of these materials are household objects, therefore this model was very inexpensive to make, and this also means that most students would be able to make it at home. In a ball and socket joint, the bone that is represented by the foam ball has a ball-shaped head that attaches with the cup-shaped cavity of another bone. An example of this joint is in the hip, the socket of the acetabulum of the hip and the ball of the head of the femur. An acetabulum is the bowl-like part of the hip joint and the femur is the top part of the bone in your thigh. This bone fits perfectly into the bowl part of your hip bone and they move around when we walk, run, throw or catch a ball and even when you sit down. This model's benefits are that it is a very simple and easy way to explain and show how movement is made in the shoulders and hips. This model simplifies the ball and socket joint for younger students as it shows them roughly how we are able to move our shoulders and hips. This model does, however, have some limitations, as it is not an accurate example of the hip joint, as when an individual is flexible enough, they are able to lift their legs straight up in the air all the way to the face at 180 degrees, but this model does not show that movement. This model can be used to make a prediction by showing the limitations of movements in the joint. For example, my prediction could be that if I try to do a 360-degree bend with the model, then the ball will pop out of the socket, which causes a dislocation, as it is not able to bend all the way up. This shows how the ball and joint socket in your shoulder should look like, but if you try to turn your arm too much, then the ball will pop out of the cup-like socket.